Hey Luke, it's James here with CSW Energy. So I wanted to prepare this video to walk you through the proposal. So let me pull it up. Hmm. 1 second. Okay, so suppose that your electricity bill shows here that you know you use 13 kilowatt hours a day on average for the latest month of May, and that's a looks like a fairly sort of median amount. So if we say that you use 13 kilowatt hours a day across the whole year, we can tweak this a little bit. Um, 1 second, just make a copy of this. So if we plug in some numbers, so say 13 kilowatt hours a day times by pretty typical electricity rate is 35 cents a kilowatt hour, plus say $1.20 a day supply charge. What does it say here on your bill? Oh, you're only getting charged $1.80 per day. Okay, that's pretty good. But you also have a peak demand charge. Okay. I'm just gonna keep it simple and say it's like $1 a day for supply charge. All right. So across the year, oh, actually, what we can do is just do $110.26 times 12. Okay. So saying you spend about $13.20 a year. Okay. So if I plug that in here, then over. Hold on a second. So if we plug in 1320 here, over 10 years, if electricity prices, if we're conservative and say electricity prices increase by 8% a year, and they have increased by up to 30%, the average over the last 5 years has been about 11%. But yeah, they increased by 25% in the past year, and from 2021 to 2022, they increased by up to 30%. So if we just say 7%, then over 10 years, your bills would increase to $1,800 a year, and cumulatively you would spend about $15,500, and that amount would keep increasing over time. Okay. And so compared to, don't ignore these options. They're for other options. So if you compare that, let's say that, if you got a 10 kilowatt hour battery, it wouldn't it wouldn't eliminate your bills, because you can see here that your usage is less than 10 kilowatt hours in September and October, but other months it's higher than that for most months. However, your shoulder and off-peak usage is at least less than 10 kilowatt hours for most months, except for August, and maybe also to February is about 10 kilowatt hours. Okay, so you, with the 10 kilowatt hour battery, you'd still have to pay for off-peak power, but you could also, with an electric vehicle in the future, you could also charge from solar power during the day, because you are still exporting a lot of electricity. Charge it to use the solar power to charge an electric vehicle rather than exporting it, in addition to charging a battery, and that way you could then use it to supply your off-peak power at night as well. So let's say you were able to, you might not eliminate the monthly cost, but it would at least minimize it. Let's look at the components of the cost here. So you spend about $17.68 on off peak. So if we say that it's able to, I mean, it would reduce your peak, your demand charge considerably, and it would reduce your peak and shoulder, and so you'd probably still have to pay for most of the off peak charge, and obviously the service charge. Although if you you probably, if you got switched to something like Amber, like a plan like Amber, with a small battery, you probably won't be exporting much electricity, but you could still charge your battery during the day and then overnight as well. So you could supply power to your home, for low off-peak rates overnight as well. And so that way you could cover more of your peak and shoulder and also some more of your off-peak as well. So yeah, let's say you, in terms of the savings, you were able to just rewrite this to, 1 second. So Neovolt, the Fox. I'll come to the options in a minute. So I'm actually getting into it now. So the Fox 9.6 kilowatt hour is in this proposal. It's the lowest price option. I'll come to the pricing in just a minute. So all this is included of what we provide. High quality system installed, even if it's a budget equipment. So we're not compromising on that or the level of after sales support for the long term. So that way, if there is an issue, we'll be available to support you. And as for our company, we have been in business for since 2015. So quite on the longer end of time range for companies on the solar market. I've included the additional costs, so you can see that's the funding required here, 7,620. So if you compare that to spending, 500 grand on electricity bills. So if we work out the potential savings here, and bear in mind they may vary depending on your usage and how electricity prices change. And again, this is conservative. If electricity prices increase by 11% a year, you'd spend $18,700 over 10 years, and over 15 years it would be like 34 grand if you stay in your property for that long. Or when you go to sell the home, you just be able to sell it more quickly and at a higher value because the home has lower electricity bills compared to an equivalent home that doesn't have a battery. Okay. Now, if we work out the savings, so one way to do it would be using Amber's ROI tool. The reason why I like Amber is because they don't make a profit off of how much electricity that you use, nor how much you send back to the grid. So if we say you use 13 kilowatt hours on average a day over a quarter, that would be 1170 kilowatt hours. Okay, so if I plug that in here and then put your postcode in, which is to 100, and I'll just put in default usage rates here. I'll just say more conservatively $1 a day. You have solar, yeah, so you have just say 6.6. What did you say in the notes? Just pause it for a moment. Okay, so you have 12 plus, you've got 20 panels. So yeah, I'm going to say you've got 6.6. I know you said you had a Fronius inverter. your panels were installed. Not in 2016. After then, let's look at, I mean, you probably might already know, but 2021, let's take a look at that. Nope. So fairly recently then. Okay, so they're about a year old. If you have 20 panels, okay, that makes sense why you've got an 8 kilowatt inverter. So they might be, what does it say there, 440 watt panels times 20. Let's say you've got 8.8 kilowatts, okay? So where is it going with that? Just trying to work out the annual savings. So if I plug in, you have 8.8 for now. I mean, we can always tweak this. Feed-in rate, just 5 cents. I mean, it's pretty simple. Or whatever you're getting charged on that bill. Not playing chat solar. Let's say 10 kilowatt hours. 9.3 with Fox, and total cost 7620. So yeah, unfortunately, because of that's including the cost of the cable run, installing in the garage with 2 bollards and a smoke alarm, and so because of that, it has increased the cost of quite a fair bit because it is fairly long, quite a long cable run, about 20 meters. So yeah, it's saying based on these numbers, with a 9.3 kilowatt hour battery, you'd save about $1,160 a year. So if I plug that in here, and then annual cost initial would be $6,720 in the first year, cumulatively. So that would be this. Just hold on a second. Okay, so oh geez, what's going on? Okay, so P is minus. Okay. All right. Okay, there we go. So over 10 years, you would spend, instead of spending about 18,700, you'd spend about 9,600, and that would include the amount for the, wait a minute, 7,620. Okay, so instead of spending 18,700 over 10 years, you'd spend about $13,200 with a 9.6 kilowatt hour battery with amber. Okay. Yeah. So that's if electricity bills increase by 11% a year. If it's more conservative, you would still spend more over 10 years than with having a battery. And then the savings would increase over out to 15, 20 years. Okay. And you can expect the battery to last longer than 10 years. I mean, the warranty is 10 years with at least 70% capacity, but if it has at least 70% capacity after 10 years, then provided that the inverter works, the battery continues to work, then yeah, it should be last longer. And there are batteries that are outlasting the 10-year warranties that have been installed in Australia. Again, there's no guarantee that it will last longer, but it probably, generally you can expect a home battery to last more like 15 to 20 years, but don't hold us on that. But if it fails within the first 10 years, it can be replaced under the warranty. But it's unlikely that would happen. Yeah, generally the failure rates are pretty low for a lot of batteries. Okay, so that's basically it. If there are other options here in this proposal for a larger battery, like if you look at a Fox 14 kilowatt hour battery, it's it's an extra module, and yeah, it's not that much extra. Instead of being 7,620, it's $8,182 for about a 15% a 50% increase in the size of the battery. All right. If we look at like that's the Fox 14.2 with a 5 kilowatt inverter. Same 5 kilowatt inverter here. The second option's a Neovolt. It's about the same really as the Fox, so not much of a difference. And I've just thrown in another option for Solax. It is considerably more funding required for it with a 10.2 kilowatt hour battery. But one advantage of it is that it is V2X ready, which means this particular vast inverter. What that means is that if you get an electric vehicle in future, this will work seamlessly with a Solax bidirectional charger, and so that you can use an electric vehicle to supply power to your home and to the grid. So again, you can save more on your electricity bills doing that by charging electric vehicle during the day and using it at night. And that just gives more future proofing, as well as coal-fired power stations are being retired, which will cause electricity prices to increase overnight. Okay. Other than that, we do have finance options, as you did mention that spending over $7,000 was not something that you were wanting to do. So if spending that is an issue, more than that is an issue, we could put the balance, spread it out over a longer period of time of 1 year or more. You could pay still seven grand up front and then pay the balance. Now there are establishment fees with doing this, and a monthly account keeping fee as well. But it would just allow you to get a battery without breaking your budget. Okay. Hope that makes sense. And let me know if you have any questions on that, what your thoughts are. If I mean, do you feel like this is something that you could put in the home to really minimize your electricity bills, at least lower them, and avoid paying for electricity price increases each year, especially for the shoulder and peak times? Um, and just have more energy independence overall, so you're not as dependent on getting electricity from outside the home. I mean, so do you feel like that? One of these options is something a change you'd be willing to tolerate, so that you can actually spend less over the long term, rather than being stuck with electricity bills that continue to increase with no end date. Um, Whereas this is just you pay once for it, or you pay over a set period of time, and then it's paid off, and your bills will remain lower for a long period. Can you see the difference on that? Okay. Um, and I might have already mentioned this to you, but we are a national company with that does have a high level of average customer satisfaction ratings. Get good results and avoid having a bad experience over the long term of the lifetime of having a battery. You have to go over. Um, just let me know. The next steps would be, if you it would be, we can either make would be either make an upfront payment, or pay a seven grand down payment, and the balance over a green loan. Um, so happy to discuss that with you, and we would install within about 6 weeks, probably maximum, and it would take about half a day, maybe a day, to install because of the longer cable run. Okay. All right. Thanks for keeping focused and paying attention. All right. Hope this helps. And thanks for being proactive about looking into getting a battery.